Right, so welcome guys to the You Were Born Rich Mastermind group. Very excited about this chapter, and as I said, we're almost in this compounding effect at the minute, where we just seem to be building and building and building these blocks underneath us, and now it's just seemed to you're really going to get the experience fully by taking on each chapter and adding to the next, and your money just seems to start doubling and doubling and doubling with compound interest. The same thing's happening here with your personal development. A lot of things are going on, and you're really building these foundational blocks up and working off them. You're looking for successes all the time. You're looking how to improve all the time. You're focusing each week on the chapters, and with effective use of these chapters in this mastermind. These chapters are all yours as well, guys. So going back over them again and again. And even just doing like what I did after the first chapter I was in, I just started it again for myself and just went back to the first chapter all the way through for a 12-week program for myself, and just went through and really just found the benefits again, because you do miss things and you forget the importance of a lot of this stuff, especially now you're starting to understand a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff. It's good to go back and refresh and really set a good clear image of your goals and how much is enough. You and money, how you relate yourself to money now that you're going to start be earning it. Your image maker, what you want to see about yourself, letting go. Because a lot of these things, now that we're starting to get deep into them and start to fully moving forward into our goals, letting go and letting God's a big one. Because now we've actually made enough building blocks to get us there. We really just want to let go and allow it to happen as well. And all the other chapters, the previous one, risk takers, very strong chapter as well, being the person that does make the move. And I do want to ask you about your successes. I love this picture. Fantastic. He's definitely had a success this day. Now, with your successes, I'm sure you're starting to notice them a lot more, because we keep talking about them. How much you can actually have success, and how finding the small successes. Because a lot of the time, successes are, hiding in plain sight. Once you start looking for them and speaking to yourself in a way where you're actually searching for these successes and what you're proud of, if you're doing the exercise, what I spoke about in one of the previous chapters, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying to yourself what you've done today, what you're proud of, what your successes are, and what you're doing really well, what you're focused on and you're really achieving. It's something to really to focus on moving forward, even past this mastermind. Because once you start looking for successes, you start looking for ideas as well to have success. You enjoy the feeling of getting the satisfaction of the success, so you unconsciously start looking for it. Back to the stick person idea, you're looking for the ideas of success, and you find them, and it becomes a habit. So you're constantly searching for success, but you're constantly having success at the same time. It's a very nice paradox. So I want you guys to have a really good think back of what your successes have been for the last week, and make a note of them, make a mental note, write them down. And yeah, really focus on what you've been doing well this last week. Myself, I've been through a bit of a journey these last few weeks, ups and downs, bit of a roller coaster as far as personal development, because I always seem to reach a crossroads where I break away from a certain thing, and then I come back to it with a different sort of perception of it, using one of my higher faculties, perception, and I see it in a different light, and I really understand it in a different way. I approach things differently, and I'm really feeling very powerful about what's going to happen in the next few weeks for myself. And for me, that's a success, because I'm looking at something with fresh pair of eyes. I went away for this week to Paris with my girlfriend, had a brilliant holiday. It's a success for me because our relationship is really blossoming, and I've never had that before in my life. So it's really something for me to be proud of, and I'm really focusing on that and trying to make it as good as I can, as often as I can. So you got to find these successes in plain sight and really be grateful for them. And like we said, the risk takers, breaking free from the bondage. We've figured out how to actually develop a habit, break free from this bondage that's holding us back a lot of the time. And what it is, because it's quite obvious once you actually look at it. But when you're doing these things in your day-to-day life and you're trying to develop these new habits, it can seem tough. And you just fall back into your old habits because it's comfortable. And now you understand, through understanding itself, is the way to break free from that. and looking at failure differently as well. Looking at the fact that not being harsh on yourself, not being worried about the fear of failure. Because how do you get good at something? By practice at something and practicing and taking a risk every now and again. But to have fear of failure or fear of rejection isn't a reality because it's not happened yet. So you're scared of what you're making up in your own head. And secondly, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to learn something from it. You learn how to do it better, what not to do, or more likely something you're going to do properly right in the future. And having a long-term purpose, that's where your fear of failure actually gets blocked as well, because once you're working towards something, you don't mind taking these risks and these, some things I do. For example, I know I'm going to fail at, I'm 90% sure I'm going to fail at it because it's that difficult. I've never done it before in my life. It's a lot of pressure. For example, I could be speaking to a lot of people or I could be developing a program. And I'm very nervous about the idea. I've got a new concept I want to share with somebody who I'm working with. And, it could go a bit straight, a bit south. But I'll go in it because I know that it's going to, if it fails, I'll learn how to do it better the next time. Because my long-term purpose is there at the end of the day. So it stops me worrying about the short-term goals and stops me worrying too much about failing now. Because I'm really going to take the risk now to see the results in the future. The same way as me of being a chef when I was initially starting out. I took a lot of risks. I was getting paid, well, initially when I started to become a chef, my first job, it was unpaid. I worked for free because I wanted to work in the kitchen. And then eventually I was working on very minimum wage. And it was like 12 grand a year and I was doing about 80 hours a week. And it was on the salary. So I was working my butt off. And I wasn't seeing many results. I was struggling. I was hot. Didn't handle the heat very well because you were in a lot of pressure and you're back to back with ovens and your face is a hot grill. So it's very hot. You're sweating. You're losing your friends because you haven't got any time for them. Relationships are out of the window. But I knew in my head that I wanted to be a brilliant chef. And I could sense that, and people were telling me I was very passionate about it. And I could sense that it was going to be something I could do. So I stuck with it. I didn't worry about each failure, each time I didn't do very well in service. The 17-year-old kid, I was walking into a kitchen. I mean, the kitchens get referred to as being like in a war a lot of the time. You're going to war. I'd be going out on a Saturday night on my own for a full section. I've got about 10 different dishes to prepare on my own to serve to people. And I'm serving 120 people, 150 people sometimes. And everyone obviously comes at about 8 o'clock for dinner, 7:30 to 8 o'clock. And I'm doing tables of 12, tables of 10. I'm cooking and ordering and making sure everything's right. And I've been cooking for about 6 months. Lots of pressure, a high standard as well, 2 rosette kitchen. So a lot of the time I knew I was going to fail, 100%. I knew I was going to fail because it was such a big ask. But I knew the long-term purpose was there. So I stuck with it. And now I'm reaping the rewards now. I'm very comfortable in my job. I can work anywhere in the world. I can get paid potentially a lot of money if I chose to work in that environment again, where I'm working in a hotel in them sort of hours. I'm working in the Commonwealth Games, planning to go to the Olympics next year in Brazil just to work there because I can. I've cooked for the Queen a few times, rated some top restaurants, some of the top restaurants in the world. I've travelled with a job, but it's fantastic. It's given me a lot of good options because I stuck with it for the long-term purpose. Now, let's get into the Razor's Edge, guys. This is a really big chapter, and it's the fine line. And it's called the Razor's Edge because it's a fine line. The finest line, as thin as a razor's edge, is sometimes what it takes to be a success or to be a failure. I mean, we all know what a failure really is, so it's a strange word to use. You're not really a failure, but the difference between first and second place, or success and almost success. And this is what it is. The Razor's Edge is a huge chapter, and I love this, and it's very, very essential for when you're trying to. If you've got an idea now, you've got a clear image of where you want to be, what you want to do, and where you're going. The Razor's Edge is the next step, the big one to actually figure out, right, I need to do this specific things to get to my goal. And simply sticking to these goals, sticking to these activities, are going to get me there, and I'm going to exceed everyone else because of what I'm doing consistently and constantly. Aristotle famously said, we are what we repeatedly do. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Now, how much have we gone into habits already? And paradigms, what we've actually set up for ourselves in our mind, and, our conscious habits and subconscious habits. So changing our thoughts, which will change our actions, which change our results, are essential. So having these habits of success, which we're going to go into in a little bit, are literally the cornerstone of our success. These small things, and it's ridiculous to think about, honestly, because you could do whatever you wanted to do, because you know for a fact that this many people are going to give up because they're not going to do these small tasks again and again, or they're not going to go all in with the results that you want to get, and they're not going to go all in. So it's almost like the world is your oyster, because you can set yourself up for success and just get it, no problem. It's just a case of breaking through your paradigms, developing these habits and repeating them. Arnold Schwarzenegger, fantastic. One of my idols in a lot of different aspects. His mindset's fantastic. Obviously, his physical conditioning and mental conditioning as well. Because to become as strong as he was, the best bodybuilder in the world for 7 years in a row, is a very mental game. Very, very mental. The physical part of it's out of the window once you get to a certain level. Like, once you get to a pro level, it's all mindset. And it says here, the last rep is the difference between the great and the best. Now, it's up to you which is the last rep in the gym. It's up to you which is the last rep when you're writing a story or writing letters to people or making phone calls. The last call that you make is a difference. The last time you have, when you have a healthy meal, when the last time you have some chocolate and indulge too much because you want to have the perfect body, is a difference. The extra hour you put into your work. But when is the last rep for you? Because obviously it's a mental game for everyone. When you feel, there's got a little thing here, working out in the gym. If you make a habit of being exhausted and tired, and literally being like, I'm finished, and then just pushing out one more rep, you'll be the strongest person in the gym in no time at all. And that's a fact. Just pushing through, because the next time you'll go one further and one further, then you'll go heavier. You'll keep pushing and develop a habit of reaching this comfort zone, which is stopping you, and then pushing one beyond every time, which is what 99% of people don't do. They get tired and then they give up. I mean, I do it, a lot of the times as well. You get in there and you're quite tired and you think, right, this time I do feel a bit too much. But there's sometimes when I'm doing like a leg rep in, for example, and obviously with my legs, they're very big muscles. Not just mine, obviously, but everyone's. But, your legs are very big muscles. So when you work them out in the gym, when you're doing squats, for example, it pushes a lot of blood around your body, lots of oxygen. And it can make you feel so sick. It's literally a huge muscle, so your body's really getting messed up from it sometimes if you're working it really hard. And I've been to the point where I've almost passed out. Then I've stopped, had some water, and gone back to finish my set. And my legs got really strong. And that's when a lot of your strength comes from in weightlifting, is your legs. So it's just a case of when is your last rep. And it's the small changes. Because once you develop this habit of going to the end and then doing one more, that's a habit for life. Once you actually develop it long enough in your subconscious mind. Figure out what you do better than most people. And obviously, you guys aren't able to make this call right now, but figure out what you are better than most people at. What you do better than everyone else. Now, what separates you from them? Whether it's playing football, whether it's playing internet games, whether it's playing a certain sport, working hard in business, being a person that just gets up every day at 6 o'clock no matter what. The person who's very positive to everyone else. Very, very positive to everybody, because that's a habit that's hard to develop as well. Being a person that just goes above and beyond every time. Or anything. Could be the person that looks after the family the best. The person you just know for a fact that you work so hard at your family, you never give up, you never crack, you never, let your anger get the better of you. You never just react, you always respond, you always think about what you say, and you help it, trying to develop it constantly. But what do you do better than most people? And what separates you from them? It's a choice. The choice to do more, to push yourself. What did you have to do to get where you are? Repeating it, developing these habits, developing what you need to do, developing the skills and the mindset that you want to do it, setting it up in your mind, of your image maker, what you actually want to achieve, and then going at it, full guns blazing, all guns blazing. Constantly repeating it, breaking through your comfort zones, and then getting to a good stage where now it's easy. Because obviously you weren't always good at it. I'm sure, like with me, I used to play a lot of pool, but I've got to admit, I am not a natural sports person at all, and I was hilariously bad at pool initially. It was just something I couldn't do. Like I wasn't even able to hit a white ball into another ball. It was ridiculous, but I practiced that much. I wanted to do it. I saw that my grandparents were a bit of an inspiration. They had trophies and they were quite good and had a pool table. So that was my goal, to get better at it from there. But when you do it now, do you find it difficult, this task that you're really good at? I doubt it. It's like second nature. It's a habit that you just know how to do. Like playing pool. Like I almost don't even need to look at the table when I'm playing. Sounds ridiculous, but I can play very quick because I know where the angles are. I know how to put a ball and lead to your next ball. I know I don't even need to think about setting myself up a lot of the time because I can just pot from anywhere. It's just literally a habit, and I feel very comfortable and very, relaxed doing it. They're saying here by Albert Einstein, play better. You have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anyone else. And what separated me was, playing pool. I just practiced. I enjoyed playing all the time. I figured out what I struggled with. I worked out that, I'd always struggle on a black ball, so I'd play a lot more games. I struggled with a lot of certain activities. So I just really figured out what was my weakest points and then focused on them. And that is the difference, because a lot of people would just play and not practice as hard. I'd go in and, and just do specific things. I'd practice my break, I'd get my warm-up ready. So every time I hit the ball for a break, I'd warm up the exact same way. I'd line my cue up the amount of times the same every time. Like when footballers take a penalty and they take 3 steps back and 4 steps to the side. Every time they do that, because it unconsciously anchors their body to a good time where they hit the ball really well. And this is the question, because obviously you must be wondering, if you've not had a massive success at anything or really good at anything, will doing small things repeatedly really guarantee my success? Because there must be some sort of trick I need to work out or something I need to learn to be able to do this really well. And what is it? Will it really guarantee success? And what happened if you talk to one person every day about your business? Small task. If you went to the gym 4 times a week, one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off, 4 times a week for half an hour. If you eat 3 meals a day and have at least 1/3 vegetables on your plate for your health goals. If you stay at practice 10 minutes longer than everyone else every time you practice, 10 minutes isn't much. Small task. If you woke up an hour earlier than everyone else to get your work done, or to really wake up and meditate and write out your goals and figure out where you need to be, What would your life look like after 1 year? 3 years? That one person over 3 years is over 1,000 people. If you had one friend on Facebook every day making a connection, you got 1,000 friends minimum. Because people start talking to you, people will be interested in you because you've made a connection with them. They'll add you friends. People will see who you're talking to, what you're promoting. But if you don't do that, I'm sure you can look back 3 years ago and think, oh, I wish I'd done that then. So you can start now. Going to the gym 4 times a week for half an hour. You develop a habit to go. You'll train how you want to train. You'll get into a perfect condition that you want to be in a year's time. No problem. Eating 3 meals a day with at least a third vegetables in a plate, which is at least what I do, with probably more vegetables, but that's just my choice. It's going to be my health goal, and it's not a problem for me at all now. And I feel very comfortable, and that's a big passion of mine now, is my health. Because I understand that my food is something that fuels me, and it affects my moods. You know, the carb coma, you know, eating something does affect my moods, and my food affects my moods, affects my choices. So simply by making sure I'm eating the right foods, it helps me to make the right choices. Because one small thing can lead to another thing, you know, drinking coffee every day is a habit, and now when you stop drinking it, you need one because it's like a drug, really. The caffeine is a drug. But if you stop for a couple of days and stop for 4 days and break the habit, then you don't need that drug anymore. It's out of your system. It's a small task, but just by not having one or cutting down by a glass every week, even take one coffee out a day or one coffee out a week every week. In a year's time, you'll be off it, and you'll be energized enough without coffee. Waking up an hour earlier than everyone else. If you wake up an hour earlier in 1 year, you'll have had 365 hours. 365 hours of extra work than everybody else. It's very intense. You know, that's something like 9 40-hour weeks. You're getting an extra 9 weeks of progress in your business by waking up an hour earlier. Now, yeah, it's a hard habit. Everyone likes to snooze it. But imagine what you could do with an extra 9 weeks of your life in a year. Think about it. These small successes do guarantee success. And if you combine them together, it's unbelievable. And it's back to the, you were born rich as well, guys. You know, the first horse, first racehorse in history that won over $1 million in prize money, a generation had an earning of $761,000. And now the horse that finished second, who lost most races by only a nose, a ridiculously small amount, had only 75,000. Now it says here, you know, it looks like the best horse was 13 times better, but it was literally fractions of a second. 100-meter sprinters lose for 100th of a second. 100th. So their race activities are essential. You know, here it wasn't even 4% superior, but it was just that he practiced an extra 10 minutes a day, ran an extra lap, conditioned himself constantly to work there and get there. That's all you need to do to guarantee your success. Just keep going. Find out what everyone else is doing and do an extra 10 minutes on it. And that's just going to guarantee it, because that's how you're going to get better than them. That 10 minutes are going to add up. You know, 1 hour, I mean, that shocked me when I realised, and obviously it's just simple maths, but 1 hour a day is 9 40-hour weeks. Now, this is something as well which I figured out a while ago, and someone mentioned that as well, you know, how you talk to one person or how you do one random thing is how you do everything. And I put usually because obviously the people that you already know, you speak to differently. Your family members, you speak to differently. You see a pretty guy or a pretty girl, you speak to them differently than you usually would do. But how you speak to a random person, or how you do a random thing like washing the dishes, or waking up in the morning, or trying a diet, or starting a business, how you do all these things is how you do everything, because it's a habit. Now let this just sink in for a second, and it makes you think, right, okay, well, so if you develop a habit of excellence in everything that you do, a habit where you act, without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to succeed and work very hard to get to your goals. You build a habit. Now this habit is going to determine the results you get in your life, and it's going to really impact you, because you'll know for a fact that you're giving everything, and waking up an extra hour and then washing the dishes with excellence, showering with excellence, cleaning yourself down with excellence. If everything's done with excellence, it becomes easy. So when someone asks you to do a certain thing, or you speak to for me, for example, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I'm a very positive person, and I like talking to people and making friends and being friendly towards them and looking for what they've done well and making them feel good about themselves. Now, whenever I meet someone now, it's just second nature. I'll talk to someone in a cafe, they'll be in a bad mood, I'll turn around and make them in a good mood just by being friendly to them, complimenting them on what they've done. Building this habit is now how I talk to everybody, and I get a lot better results than just thinking, oh, this person's not really much of a big deal. There's no point in speaking to them differently, because you never know who anyone is. And also, it's just a good habit to have. Speaking to everyone like they're your family, respecting everybody. I mean, sure, there are going to be some people you don't get along with, but how you speak to most people is how you should speak to, your family, someone that you really respect. And that's the same with your acting, how you do it, how you clean your room, how you do everything. Because you're developing your mind and you're subconsciously changing your ideas and your thoughts to do everything to the best of your ability. And then it becomes easy. Hard things become easy because you're developing that habit. Winning is not a sometime thing. It is an all-time thing. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Now that's Vincent Lombardi, very successful coach in American football. He just said to them, every time you get hit, just push back. As soon as you get down, just push back a little bit. As soon as you get hit, push forward a little bit. As soon as somebody, connects with you in the ball, you're running with the ball, push them back a little bit before you go down. Don't just surrender to it. And that was almost a difference between success for them, because they had a never say die attitude. They knew if someone was going to hit them, they were going to hit them back. No problem. They weren't going down. And then he was a champion. They were the best football team in the world. And it's that excellence, having that excellence of every single thing. And there's a really good aspect of here in basketball as well, which I had a while ago. There was a team that was came second place. They lost. Well, they got to the final, and they lost the final to a team. They beat everyone else, but lost to this one team. So then the coach couldn't. The team thought they'd done really well, and then everything they could do to get to the goal, and they felt like the team was a bit disheartened, and they felt they'd given everything. So what he said was, okay, we're going to improve 1% this year. Is that acceptable for everyone? Everyone's like, well, yeah, I can do 1%, easy. So they're trying to get the stats up by 1%. They'd make more connections by that 1%. They'd make more shots in the game on target by 1%. They'd hit more baskets in the free throws in the practice by 1%. 1% ain't that much. But the results was amazing. Some of the players actually improved by 50% on stats because they were constantly trying to improve. Japanese word kaizen means like constant improvement, constant and never-ending improvement. Just trying to look for that 1% where you can figure out. But once you start doing that 1% constantly, it's a compounding effect that we were talking about earlier on. You're building that habit of excellence that you're trying to always improve. You know, who's doing what you're doing but having more success? And what's the difference? What's making them better? How could you get to their level? And you're setting yourself smart goals. Now, in this picture here, I've flagged it because the person who's on the right hand side, the black person, is leaning into it, and so is the white person behind there. Now, the other people are not leaning in. They're just running. They're not giving that extra inch. They're not having that excellence. They thought, oh, I'm not going to make it. Or they thought, oh, I've already made it. But it's that pushing yourself, that extra little length. There is a difference. That 1% difference. That raises edge. Now, what are your SMART goals? SMART goal is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and you've got a time frame. Now, this is what a goal should be. It's a SMART goal for a reason, because we all set these lofty goals, which are brilliant. Thinking big is fantastic, but when you're thinking big and having huge goals, it's also essential to be realistic and think, what am I going to get? How am I going to get to this large goal? By setting smaller tasks to get there. To become the best footballer in the world, you're going to have to make 53 kicks in a row. So what's a specific thing you can do? I'm going to make 5 in a row. What's measurable? It's the number 5. Achievable? Yeah, I can hit 5. Realistic? Yep, okay, that is realistic. I can probably hit 5 pretty easily. And when I'm going to do that by next month, I'll hit 5 every day. Every day I'll hit 5 for a month. And for your business, specific goal, how many people are you going to talk to? Is it measurable? Write it down. How many connections are you making on Facebook a day? Speaking about your business. How much of your time are you spending on your personal development, reading, meditating, breaking through your comfort zones? I mean, be realistic as well. Don't just set crazy goals that are going to be, too far out of your comfort zone, because you're going to put a lot of pressure on yourself. Set yourself this 1%. And over time, it'll compound and be a ridiculous goal. And I'm all for setting big, lofty goals, which I do myself as well. But I also have smaller goals which lead towards the big goals. Doing these small activities, these razor edge activities, they're going to get you there. And time's an important thing, because without time, all these things are just dreams. They're not goals, they're just dreams, things that you want to get done. With a time frame, it turns a dream into the tangible, into a realistic goal. Now, what in your life will the razor's edge make the difference for you? In what area? Because it's not necessarily just your business. Because I have a thing when I do my coaching courses, well, I have a little wheel, the wheel of life. 10 different aspects of your life. Your relationships, your finance, your business, your health, your relationships with people, relationship with yourself. And figure out all different aspects which are close to you, your spiritual life maybe. I mean, everyone's got their own one which is different. You need personal possessions for a lot of people are a big goal. Figure out the 10 things that are specific towards you. Write on a scale of 1 to 10 how well you're doing at them. And figure out, which one are you going to do now? Or which ones are lacking? Which ones do you want to improve on? And what will make the difference in those things to make it a better number? If you're at a 6, what's it going to take to get to a 7? If you're aiming to get to a 7 in a month's time, what's it going to take to do every day? What in your life will that razor edge activity make a difference to you? Is it just being positive? Is it just going to the gym once a week to start off with? Twice a week? Is it going for one walk a day? Is it going for, going to the library every day for half an hour, just for half an hour, and reading a book. Spending that 20 minutes in the morning figuring out what you're going to do for the day, or 20 minutes at the night time beforehand figuring out what you do for the next day. Figuring out what you've done well that day previously and how you're going to improve on it the next time, or what your successes are. What's the razor's edge for you? You know, what do you want to do? Because people are going to judge you no matter what you do, so you might as well do what you want, which is very true. A lot of people try and just succeed and be really successful, but what really makes your heart sing? What do you really want to do specifically? Not just be famous and rich, because, you know, yeah, they are good things, but what's rich to you, and what do you need to be famous for? To prove yourself to people. Because you need to prove yourself to anybody. You know, being rich, having a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to be necessarily happy. It only happens when you already are. So if you're happy now in what you're doing, then when you get money, because money will come to you if you do what you love and you do it well. And you'll get better at it, and you'll be happier, and you'll get more money, and the money will just allow you to spread your service even further. Now, what do you think holds most people back as well from these razor edge activities or doing these small things? Because it is that simple. What is the difference? What is the thing that holds most people back? Persistence, commitment, will. Breaking through comfort zones is hard. You know, I've been through this with a bondage. You start off at bondage, you get your ex ideas, your ex thoughts. You get an idea that seems to make sense with your usual reason. You get conflict because you're in XY vibration, and then the terror barrier sends you all the way back. You know, is that doubt, that anxiousness, the fear? And it's tough to break through these comfort zones because it's changing who you are as a person. And it might seem, yeah, but it's only a small thing I need to get done. But it's not. You're changing your entire physical body, your physical being, by doing this new thing. It's like crossing your arms left over right instead of vice versa. It makes your body completely freak out when you want to do something. You just want to stop doing it. And that's all you're doing, is crossing your arms the opposite way. You know, doing something left-handed, if you're right-handed, is difficult. And it just feels so natural. But if you practiced every day at it, it'd become more normal. But it's just breaking through that terror barrier, that uncomfortableness. And through understanding, you get there. You get to freedom. And you change your results. But it's just through understanding, you know, which comes through figuring out your goals beforehand and figuring out what they actually mean to you. But it's these razor edge that are going to get you there. So it's essential to get past this stage. And once you get to a stage where you reach something that's difficult, you'll start to enjoy it because you know what you need to do now. All you need to do is keep persisting and understand why you need to do this. And you're going to break through to freedom easily and develop into the person that you need to develop into and pull you out of bondage into freedom. And then you're in control of your life. Once you've done it a few times, it's literally like you're in a place that's like a fantastic place where you can do anything. Same with me. I spoke about pool earlier on and cooking. You know, it was tough. I had to make a lot of stuff. I had to do a lot of stuff. I had to peel carrots constantly for hours. You know, 5, 10, 20 kilos of carrots. Then potatoes. I'd do this guy on the left with the white chef jacket on, making his desserts. I mean, I've been in places where I've cooked banquets for 300, 400, 500 people. But now I'm at a stage where I can do that, not comfortably, it's still difficult, but I know what I'm doing. I know how to organise myself and other people to help me to do it. I've cooked at some of the highest standard restaurants in the world. And nothing really phases me anymore. But it's just doing these small activities and developing these small tasks. And there are literally small tasks in the kitchen. how you chop things. If you can make yourself save time for 5 seconds each carrot, you'll save yourself time on a specific thing properly. Over 20 kilos of carrot. See, if you're saving yourself like 15-20 minutes, which in the kitchen's a lot of time, developing these small activities, these small razor edge activities, that'll make a difference. For me, I'd finish a service, I'd finish like a 16 or 18 hour day. I'd go up into my room after, writing down my order list and my prep list for the next day. I'd actually have my list ready for the next day. I'd go into my room, I'd sit down and organise timings for each thing. So if I had like I'd usually have a full page of A4 with jobs for the next day, make the soup, make the starter. So what was on the starter, maybe it was mussels, maybe it was, chop onions for the broth, and so on and so on and so on, cook asparagus, peel quail's eggs, and etc, etc, etc. I'd figure out what was my first thing to do, the second thing to do, when I was going to do each thing, in order, always at the end of my job list. I didn't need to do that, but that was a difference for me, because when I came in the next day after being tired, because I was up all night because I couldn't sleep through adrenaline, I knew what I needed to do, so I just sat down and I worked on it. And the first couple of months in the kitchen for me, I'd get there, and I'd be like, God, I'm trying to do it. Like, the chef had come up to me. He's a really good chef, by the way. He actually won Chef of the Year, I think, 2 years ago in England. And he came up to me and said, well, so what have you done this morning, Josh? And I'd been at work about an hour and a half. I was like, well, I've got the soup on, I've got this veg chopping for the main courses, I've got, some stuff prepared for the seafood. It's like, in an hour and a half, Josh, that's not enough. And he's a very big guy as well, very intimidating. And I was like, oh man, that's true. When you look back on it, you've just been in a lot of stuff, making a lot of noise but not really doing that much, getting yourself prepared, organising your list. But then one day, you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. One day he walked into the kitchen. We all started at 8 o'clock, and I'd get there for about 7:45. It's another thing, making sure I'm there a little bit earlier, having that extra bit of difference. And he walked in and said, what's going on? I was like, what do you mean? Because we had a large kitchen with maybe 6 hobs. I mean, I had 2 of those. So we had 12 hobs, a couple of ovens and rationales, like cooking apparatus and stuff and pans on. I'd filled almost all of the hobs with pans for stocks, for soups, for sauces, for garnishes, for vegetable cooking, for seafood sauces and everything. It was all on. I was cooking off shellfish, I was frying off vegetables, everything on at one go. The kitchen was hot, I was on, I had my vegetables out on the side ready to go. And he walked in at about 8:15 and he was like, what is going on with this? And he said, well, he came back after an hour and a half and said, what have you done? Like the first time originally. I said, oh, I was just here. So I pulled out a trolley. And I was like, well, I've got my starter stuff on this section. I've done these 10 jobs here. On the middle section, I've got this stuff started. I've got the soups on. I've got my broths on. I've got everything pretty much ready. I'm just finishing off my garnishes for the starter on this one. And I've got this, and this done. And I was literally ready, about 10, 15, 20 jobs in my head. And I was just telling her about it. Because I knew what I needed to do. And it was almost a habit now. And I was ready for it. And that's for me when the love comes. I've got a lot of things, a lot of pressure going on. And I'm just all over it like a rash. And it was just doing these small activities repeatedly. And it was easy. It was a breeze after that. The pressure was off. And you could just see in his eyes that he was smiling. He's a very intimidating, like Gordon Ramsay style guy. But he was just like, nice work, Josh. You've done well there, son. And he was really impressed. And that was a very proud moment for me that I remember to this day. And it was very cool. He didn't play it. He played it down quite a lot. Didn't make it like a big deal. But I knew myself it was a big deal. And now I was moving to a next level. And I felt very comfortable with that. And it's cool, and it's just what it is, these small activities. And that's where I am now. Same with pool as well, I put the extra effort in. And I was playing people played for England and beating them. I played people that played pool as a job. They'd go around and play in tournaments, and that'd be the way to earn money. Played this one guy who'd come to where I lived in Hull. He came to play there just to play that competition because it was a money competition, a cash tournament. I ended up getting him in the second round. Unfortunate for me because he was a very good player, probably one of the top contenders to win it. And it was 9-ball pool, and 9-ball is like what you see Obama playing on the left-hand picture. We got to put the balls 1 to 9 in order, and it's very difficult because in normal pool you can put any ball, you got a lot of choices. In 9-ball you got to be very specific about your pots and your position and everything. And over the 2 games, I think he had 2 shots, and they were both tough to get out of. Like I'd put in the ball in a hard position to make it very hard for him to pot, and I just walked all over him very easily through the practice that I'd done in these small razor activities to get me to where I needed to be. Do you perform well when the pressure is on? Do you revise for exams 20 minutes a day, every day for a few months? Or do you revise, 6 hours the night before like I used to? Do you prepare for interviews and business meetings way in advance? Or a couple of nights before because you think it's going to be easy? And this is what we said about, having excellence in everything. Being successful is a mindset. Same as being rich is a mindset. So you got something coming up. You perform well under pressure because you practiced it a million times. If I go into a speaking engagement, I'm going to be good because I'm finding any speaking engagement I can possible now. And speaking it, public speaking classes, Toastmasters, I'll actually go and present ideas, have presentations, this mastermind. So when the pressure's on someone, oh, Josh, can you come in and speak? I'm comfortable doing it because I've done it a million times. It's that success mindset, doing these small activities constantly that you need to get done. So, what razor edge activity could you do that will improve your results? Like practical things, self-development. What could you do every day to improve your results in self-development? Reading, writing, idea mapping, mind mapping, figuring out, where you want to be, what you want to do, figuring out yourself, affirmations, yoga. I just got a list here. Early wake-up calls, positive self-talk, very powerful. Reading, breathing techniques. Simple thing, but if you oxygenate your body, you can have better results. If you get into the habit of doing that, you can think clearly and have better results that way. And also help your body, flow better. Oxygen is what gives us life. So if you know how to breathe properly, you can have more life. Exercising, gratitude for people and for yourself and what you're doing. Socialising with people, networking for your business, 1 person a day. Just figure out what you could do. Get a list of maybe 5-10 things that you can do, simple things. And just do them one simple thing. Instead of setting yourself up and saying, I'm going to speak to 10 people every day about my business. Just go with 1 and build it up. Build up until it's a habit, and then go with 2, because obviously it's the first time it's easy. Going to the gym 2-3 times a week, and then building up to 6 times a week for an hour, or every day. Read for 10 minutes in the morning. You'll find that you might enjoy it. You'll end up reading for an hour a day, like I do. Doing yoga, meditating, waking up at 6 AM in the morning, or waking up 10 minutes earlier. I said an hour earlier on, but waking up 10 minutes a day earlier. If you compound that into a year's time, 3 years' time, you're still getting a few weeks extra a year by waking up that 10 minutes earlier to get yourself ready. Are you searching for overnight success? Are there really overnight successes? Because, as Richard Branson said, and we all know, there are no quick wins in business. It takes years to become an overnight success. Yes, you might catch a break, but you've caught a break because of all the work you've put in beforehand, of all the people you're speaking to, the network you've been doing to find out about this idea that could change everything. you've put a lot of work into your mindset, into your social group that you've got around you, into your physical body, if that's what you need to do to win a competition, in everything. It's just literally all these small things which add up to the biggest things. They can be overnight successes, all these, the game-changing things. Like these adverts you see on TV, become a millionaire in 6 weeks or 2 days. Really what it is small things done well. And once you realise that, it's exciting. Because you can figure out what you need to do. Let me go back to the stick person on this. Figure out what you need to do. And start thinking about it. Start acting on it. And that's the results you're going to get. And how you do each one random thing is how you're going to do everything. So think about that as well when you're moving forward. And, we cannot outperform our own self-image like John Canary said. Next chapter here, don't think in reverse. Very big one as well. Moving forward, 'cause it's something that we can all slip up on as we do develop into our good habits. To develop these bad habits of thinking back too much and worrying about the past. But that's something we're going to go into on the next chapter. Obviously, it's a bit quick one tonight because obviously it's just me on here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them. Message them in the Meetup Mastermind group. And until then, do your radio activities. Have a plan of what you need to do. And I really look forward to getting you guys to the next level. I'll see you next week, same time, same place. And, be successful, guys.